All right, welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode 228. This is really cool seeing the numbers creep up. I mean, now we're well into the 200s, but every time I see it, I'm like, man, that's a lot of episodes. But anyways, we're back for another great episode. And real quick, just wanted to say, if you're new to Semantic Mastery, whether you're watching us live, whether you're catching the replay, we appreciate you watching. And what we recommend is the first thing you do is start coming to Hump Day Hangouts every week, every Wednesday. It's the same time, 4 p.m. Eastern, every single week. After that, grab the battle plan. Just go to battleplan.semanticmastery.com. And now we're going to do our usual thing. We're going to take a minute, say hello to the guys before we jump into it. And so let's start on the left here. I see Hernan, because I guess Chris must have not been able to join us this week.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm good. Thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I'm super excited, super excited for being here for this Hump Day Hangout. So great being here.
Outstanding. Marco, how you doing, man?
Holy shit. Came pretty quick. What's up, man? I'm doing good. I'm in the lab.
Nice.
Manipulating shit. Just I'm gonna drop a bomb. That's it. It's a nuclear missile. I'm gonna drop a nuclear missile, and then say, I told you I was gonna do it. I told you so. From beautiful Costa Rica, coming at you, nuclear missile.
Your SEO tip nuclear missile. Good stuff. Bradley, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I had one of my primary lead gen delivery options from Answer Connect. Apparently they dropped the delivery routing to my contractor 7 days ago, and I just now discovered it today. And so for 7 days we had 21 calls come in that went into oblivion. And I'm so upset about it because my contractor called me and was like, it's been awfully slow. Is everything all right? And I was like, what do you mean? We've been getting a ton of calls. And I went and researched it and found out that somehow they dropped the delivery option. So I was getting notification via email, but my contractor wasn't getting notified. Like they just dropped his delivery options for whatever reason. I don't understand. And anyways, I'm a bit upset about it, but happy to be here, and we got it resolved. And I vented my anger out with Answer Connect, and they gave me an account credit, which doesn't make up for the potential revenue loss, but at least it's been fixed and it's now delivering again. So I'm glad I caught it when I did. It could have been 3 weeks. You know what I mean?
Definitely. So. I was about to say it's better. 7 days is better than 8 days. So
that's
onwards.
Right.
Good deal. Well, like I said at the beginning, if you're just joining us, the good place to start, you're in the right place watching us. If you want to watch live or you want to ask questions ahead of time, go to semanticmastery.com/HD questions. The next step for sure, whatever you're doing, is to grab the battle plan at battleplan.semanticmastery.com. And if you really want to start or grow your local digital marketing agency, please come join our mastermind, and you can find out all about that at mastermind.semanticmastery.com. Now, a couple other things we want to touch on. Obviously, some of you are watching this live, whether you're seeing it on the replay or live. We stream through YouTube. So you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you find anything super useful, you might be watching clips or you could be watching the whole thing. Just share that with anyone you might find it to be useful with. A lot of times we answer some specific questions, but there's a lot too out there where, people find just this one thing, and whether it's about lead gen, whether it's about content production, and there's other people out there who could really benefit. And we'd love it if you'd share it with them. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on too was done-for-you services, whether you're looking for syndication networks, ROAS drive stacks. Actually, I'm going to let Marco and you guys talk about this a little bit because I think we got a lot more coming out very soon. But go to MGYB.co for your done-for-you services. So guys, do we have stuff that's actually coming out, or am I jumping the gun here?
Yeah, we have. Well, I'll let Marco say it, because I always say we're going to have it, and we never do when I say it. So
no, we are. I mean, it's already in the back end. The product is there, guys. The only holdup, and as I said yesterday during our board meeting, you'll flog me with a wet noodle. One of the holdups is, oh, sorry, Nicholas, you're not supposed to be in here. Sorry, I gave you the wrong link. So you're gonna need to sign out. Nicholas, you hearing me? You need to sign out.
Surprise guest.
Hey.
That's all right. I just hit the eject button.
Probably to control.
Well, I don't think I've ever got the chance to use that eject button, and so now I'm like, yes.
Well, now back to our regularly scheduled programming. So, anyways, Marco, I'll toss it back to you so we can.
All right. So
yeah.
I'm the holdup this time on one of those, which is link building. And the holdup is I hate writing copy because guys, I'm a literature. One of my majors is literature, and so it has to be right for me. And I always find something that's wrong, and I go back and reread, and then there's something wrong again, and it doesn't quite say what I want to say, or just whatever, and I never get it done. And I spend hours on this, which is why I hate having to write. I was asked to do it. I said I'd go ahead and do it. I should have known better and said no. Let's hire somebody for $20 to write the shit, and it gets done. But anyway, it's going to get done. The product is ready. As soon as I'm done with the copy, link building will be ready. But we have also in the back end the done for you GMB off page optimization service. Right. We have the indexing. We have just a whole bunch of things that are coming down the pipeline, and we have others that are in the works. So there are plenty of things that are coming. Sorry about this one. Again, mea culpa. You guys can go ahead, flog me 10 times with a wet noodle. Sorry about that.
Yeah, just to be clear, though, guys, the off-page GMB service is only going to be available in the mastermind for the first several weeks while we, because they always get first crack, number one. Number two, we want to make sure that we can deliver and, fulfill without any hiccups, that kind of stuff, because it is a new process for taking other people's assets instead of our own through our team. So again, that's going to only be available in the mastermind. Mastermind members will get a 20% discount from the public pricing when it does launch. So, but should be ready. I was just chatting with Rob about that within the next couple of days. But again, don't quote me on that, because every time I say that, I end up having to eat my words because it doesn't get launched right away. So, but very, very soon. Let's put it that way.
Cool deal. All right, and if you're watching this and you're not on our newsletter list, hop over to semanticmastery.com. There's lots of reasons to join. We run a lot of great news from there, clips, information, sales, discounts, and then flash sales as well. Some really cool stuff. So done for you services if you're looking to save some time, as well as get the kind of the really high quality, I was about to say a bad word, stuff done for you, then that's the place to do it.
Shit. High quality.
Don't say any bad words on Hump Day Hangouts, man.
Hey, somebody's got to keep it clean. All right, guys, with that, that's all I got on the rundown. You guys got anything else before we dive in?
Nope. I'm good.
All right, sounds good. Let's get into it.
Okay, let me grab a screen. All right. We don't have a lot of questions, so that's odd. I guess people aren't digging this new format. No, we got 5 new ones there, so that's cool. Oh, that's all Adam.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So Alex is up. Looks like several times in a row, but that's all right. And he says, "Hey guys, how about would you go to create as many quality assets?" I'm not sure I'm understanding that, but GMB or WordPress as fast as possible. I guess how would you go about creating as many quality assets as fast as possible? In other words, what would your plan be to scale to 100K per month as fast as possible? How many sites would you think it would take to create? Hiring quality, expensive service providers is included in this scenario. Thanks. Well, I don't know. I mean, to 100K per month as fast as possible, that would take a lot of work. You would need a team or a really good outsourcing, a service provider, like somebody that could provide, a white label service, or, like MGYB, for example, that could do a ton of the work for you. You see what I'm saying? That's what you would want to do. If you had to build your own team to be able to scale to that, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into building a team that could even scale. It took me several months to get my team in the point where we were building the GMB assets very efficiently, and now we're going to start offering that in MGYB, for example. But it took several months of really refining the process. That, and because also the process was constantly evolving, and it still kind of is. But so if you have the resources available, like in other words, if you got somebody that's backing you financially for a build out like that to be able to scale, then you're better off going with white label providers or fulfillment services that already have the processes in place that can handle that kind of volume. Does that make sense? Than trying to build your own. Although I always recommend to most people, that are building their own agencies and things like that, that they should hire their own in-house teams and train them how to do stuff. There's a bit of it can be a pain in the ass to learn how to hire and then train and then manage VAs or staff, regardless of whether they're virtual assistants or actual in-house staff. It can be a pain in the ass to do that, but it's the most cost-effective way long term, as long as you can manage properly, right? If you can't manage properly, then it's actually cost you more money than it would be to go to a fulfillment provider like MGYB, for example, our store, right? Because again, if you mismanage or you don't keep your VAs working, but you're paying salaries and that kind of stuff, then you can end up costing yourself more money than if you just hired it out from a service provider that already has the processes in place and is efficient, has a certain level of efficiency and all that kind of stuff, can deliver on time. That's something else you have to consider when trying to scale. If you are you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver to whoever you're scaling for. And again, if you've got a financial backer or a partner or something like that, and you promise that you can hit certain numbers and you're unable to do so because it is a bit of a, it can be a mess. It can be cumbersome to build a team and manage multiple VAs and things like that. But it really depends on what your goal is. I would say the fastest way to get to it would be to hire a fulfillment service that already has the capability to take on that kind of a volume, if you have the resources to afford it. So that's one thing I would suggest. GMBs is a great way to go. Obviously, we highly recommend that. WordPress obviously takes a bit longer when you're dealing with custom domains or self-hosted domains. It takes longer to get results than it does from strictly Google assets now. And that's just the nature of the game, because you have to build up the authority and trust of those domains and that kind of stuff. Although I don't count that out entirely. I would say that that's still a good strategy, but that's a little bit of a longer term thing. So in my opinion, the quickest way to go about it would be with GMB assets to begin with, and also use some paid traffic to get, pay-per-click type of stuff to get some results from those really quickly. Obviously, SEO stuff is what you want to do long term, but even with GMB assets, guys, depending on the level of competition for each location, some are going to take longer than others to start getting results. And that's why you should have a nice mix. If you're trying to scale very quickly, you should have a good blend of SEO as well as PPC, which can come from straight search ads, which can be rather expensive depending on your market. They're effective, but they can be expensive. But display ads are actually working really, really well, and remarketing, obviously. But display ads are a lot less expensive. And in YouTube's a great source of traffic right now too, even for local stuff. So you could use those or leverage those two platforms, Google Display Network and YouTube, to get traffic immediately to your GMB assets, which, by the way, will help them to rank faster too, right? And so, and those are all things that I would do. But I would try to stay within the Google ecosystem originally, or at least initially, while I'm working on the SEO aspect of that. And then I would also, just consider over a few months' time, once you have the SEO in place and your assets are ranking and producing leads from organic rankings, then you could start to pull back on some of the paid traffic stuff. So what do you guys say?
Yeah, I would say that it depends. From what he's saying, quality and expensive service providers is included in the scenario. So I'm going to take that to mean that you have a big budget. If you do, then the fulfillment is there because we have MGYB, who can do just about everything that you need as far as, GMB, syndication networks, RYS, drive stacks. What I would also recommend is you hire a consultant. If depending on your level of expertise, you may not need one, but hire a consultant that can be the bridge, so that they can tell you why and the how. This is what needs to be done, and they can guide you along in the process. Mm-hmm. And so, any of us that have time, and I don't know what I'm pretty tight with time right now, But any one of us can take you and guide you along the process, and it's going to be what, 4, maybe 5 hours a month for X amount of months. It'll have to be figured out depending on what you want. This is like, it's so general that it's really hard to pinpoint it. But I mean, we can take you and say, okay, this is what you're going to need to do. Set up a whole plan. You're going to need, of course, some of the courses that we teach. We don't recommend that you do it, that you go through it and do it, but setting up the hiring funnel so that you can get a team in place. Setting up, getting RYS Academy reloaded, local lease pro, local GMB pro, syndication academy. Get all these things in place. This is in conjunction, because you can just go and buy them from us, of course, but long term, you want your own team doing this so that anyone that you take on as a client, you can just plug into your system. So any of us can help you systematize this in a way that it becomes a well-oiled machine, so that all you have to do is just plug and play, and then everyone in your team knows what to do. So you have the two scenarios. You can just hire it from us, or train your own people, or have one of us show you how it's done. I mean, this is what I would recommend.
Yeah, I agree with that. Anyone else? Okay. Alex is up again. He says, can you explain what type of YouTube ads do you use for lead gen sites? What do you show in the creative ad? Well, it just depends. Like, it depends on if you can get a good video or not. If, a lot of the stuff that I do, clients actually have had videos made from local video production companies. And so those are typically, good videos, excuse me. They're compelling enough to where they'll generate, they're compelling enough to where they'll generate a click. Somebody will click through to see the offer, which will essentially take them to a landing page, or if it's for GMB assets or lead gen sites or whatever, sometimes they'll go directly to the Google property, but for the most part, they do end up going to landing pages from paid traffic. So, but you can use PLR type videos if they're decent. Remember, the idea here is if you're targeting properly, you're going to be targeting an audience that is already in market for that kind of a product or service. And so it doesn't take a lot of pushing or nudging for them to click through, because they're already, they're already interested and, have a desire for that product or service. So, I've used PLR videos. They're not great, but they will get the trick done if you can find decent ones. Something else you can do is find, a good provider on Fiverr, for example. They're not $5 anymore. I can tell you that. You can spend easily $100 or more on a good video now, a video to be produced. But the idea is if you can get a good video produced that you can then repurpose for multiple clients or multiple lead gen sites, that's a great strategy, because you'll have a little bit of an initial investment up front to have a nice video created. But what you can do is templatize that video. In other words, and this is something you can do when dealing with a provider. And it doesn't have to be from Fiverr, guys. You can find video editors or video creators or whatever on like Upwork, for example, and a lot of times you can find some really good ones there for relatively good prices. But something that I've done in the past is I've approached a video producer to create a video that might cost me $150 or $200 up front, but I tell them very specifically that I'm going to have them create a template that then every time I get a new client, or I'm going to use it for another lead gen location or asset, for example, that there are going to be specific sections of the video that are going to be swapped out with new sections, right? So it could just be text overlays, for example, but sometimes it will be like, the logo will come in on, it will animate itself into the video, that kind of stuff, to where you pay a lot of money, or not a lot of money, but relative to the edits afterwards, it's an initial investment, but then after the template's created, then it's a real quick and easy job for that same video professional for you to send to them, and you might pay them $20 or $25, right, for each new version of the video that you have created for each new client or location. So it's an investment if you're going to use this strategy, I would recommend that you do that, because instead of using like a PLR video, because the problem with the PLR video is it's so generic. that they're not all that compelling, right? So it doesn't a lot of time generate the interest or the result that you want from it. Whereas a video that is compelling, much more compelling, which if you have a custom video for a client, like again, a lot of my clients will actually have videos made by local video production companies. So they're 100% unique videos for their business. And those typically work really well. But you can have a nice template created that's unique to your business, but then you can use that over and over and over again by just swapping out certain sections to make it unique to each property or client that you're using to promote, that you're promoting for. Does that make sense? And that's something that if you're going to use that strategy, I would recommend that you do that, because it will separate you from just any other internet marketer in their mom's basement that can grab a PLR video and do the same thing you're doing. Does that make sense? The second part of that is, have you ever used Facebook ads to drive phone calls through your assets? I do not. I just have never really done Facebook ads, period. Hernan may be able to talk about that. Hernan, she's still here?
Yeah, he must be muted. Maybe he had to run and grab something.
Okay. So, sorry I can't answer that for you, but I just don't do Facebook stuff. I really don't. I stick to Google. So I'm going to keep on moving. If Hernan comes back and jumps in on that, that'd be great. Otherwise, we're going to keep up moving. Alex says, does having a canonical URL pointing to itself make it appear as a non-duplicate page? The site I'm observing has 500 plus pages. All 500 are the exact same 300-word page with the change in suburb. Right, so like the location modifier is the only thing different on each page. When I run a siteliner check, only a very small percentage of duplicate content appears. Most of the pages are skipped due to canonical URL that points to itself. As a result, I'm guessing that the site doesn't appear as spam at all. Is it also ranking? It is also ranking #1 for a ton of keywords. I can't seem to make the canonical tag work through Yoast SEO. Any recommendations? I don't know. I've never looked into that. Having a canonical point to itself, I don't understand how that would make it not appear as duplicate content when every single page would have their own canonicals pointing to themselves, and it would all be the same page with just the location details or location modifier changed out. That sounds just like, you know, a typical mass spam or mass page spam site. I've seen them do some really odd things with in the search engines that you would think wouldn't work. I've seen that over the years. For about 2 years, I worked with Lead Gadget and the ATM, and that's essentially what that does. It's like an industrial strength mass page builder. And there's a lot of people that were crushing it with that. You know, I don't particularly like the churn and burn type strategy, and that's what I consider that to be. And those, you know, I've built a lot of sites and had a lot of sites de-indexed over time. And I just didn't like having to continually repeat the builds. So that's part of the reason I got away from it. I don't understand how having a canonical point to itself, or every page point a canonical to itself, would prevent any duplicate content issues. But again, with those mass page sites, I've seen the rules are different, and I don't know why. With only 500 plus pages, that doesn't seem like a lot. We would build paid WordPress sites with the ATM, part of Lead Gadget, that were 30,000 cities. So it was 30,000 posts with basically the same content on every page. And then we would put anywhere between 6 to 10 tags per page, or per post, I should say, which would then, if let's say 6, that's 180,000 tag pages, right? So 30,000 posts with 180,000 tag pages. So the site would be 210,000 plus pages. And what's interesting is the tag pages would rank like crazy. And that's where most of the traffic would come from, was the tag pages. And I would actually even submit them to Search Console, different accounts, obviously. You wouldn't submit them all through the same Google account. But I would use, you know, like syndication network Google accounts, and just submit, you know, 1 to 3 sites maybe per account. And what was crazy is I would see the index rate start, you know, at just a couple of hundred pages, and then it would go to a couple of thousand, then a few 10,000, and then into the hundreds of thousands. And sometimes sites would index, you know, 150,000 plus pages, which was nuts because they were all just spam sites. So I don't really understand why those type of sites get away with being able to do what they've been able to do. I got away from that strategy altogether probably 2 years ago now, and I don't really ever plan on going back to it, just because, again, I don't like the whole churn and burn strategy or method. I'd rather build longer term assets. But I don't know, Marco, can you see how a page canonicalizing to itself with 500 pages that are basically duplicate content, how that would prevent any, like, stop it from being considered as duplicate content?
First of all, he's checking it with a third-party tool. It's not Google, and it's not how Google is seeing it, first and foremost. But yeah, you know, I could see how then the canonical pointing to itself makes it unique in and of itself, apart from all the others. So maybe there's some uniqueness factor that's playing in this, because I mean, I'd have to go into Google and Search Console and see whether Google is seeing anything that's duplicate, because that's all I care about, how Google sees it. How any other third-party tool, I could care less. Now, this is obviously working. And Alex, if you've ever heard me talk, if you've ever been in any of my webinars or whatever, my thing is you always become a master mimic. You always go after the big boys in your niche to see what they're doing, so that you do all of it and then one better. Right? That's how you take them down. You go, you do what they're doing, and then one better. Always you always do one more to try to push them down. So I can see how this would work. I don't understand canonicals enough to tell you, you know, why it would work one way and not the other. But what I can tell you is get rid of Yoast.
Yeah,
it's a fucking virus. Get Jeffrey Smith's Ultimate SEO Plus plugin. It's awesome. It'll let you do everything that you want to do. Not only rel equals canonical, but rel prev and rel next, which is working really well. And let me see. And as a result, yeah, I mean it's spam, even though it doesn't appear spam. So it won't hold up to a manual. I can guarantee that if it raises enough flags, it'll get a manual, and it's gone. So that's why I'm with Bradley on this, where you try to build assets that are longer lasting, but you know you always experiment. That's my thing. You always go and you test and you see how it works, and if it works, it makes you money, then you just do more of it. That's my motto. More is always better.
So for the canonical, if you're having issues with Yoast, I agree. Get rid of Yoast. It's a piece of shit. I don't like it. It's a bloated. It just adds a shit ton of bloat to the sites, guys. Just get rid of it. If you want a really great solution, go to SEOultimateplus.com. Pick this up. It's gonna, you know, you can buy license for certain number of sites and that kind of stuff. It is a paid plugin. The SEO Ultimate plugin doesn't have, or this is SEO Ultimate, and then there's the SEO Ultimate Plus, which is the paid version. They're coming out with version 2.0 soon. It's been in beta for a couple of months, so I know it's coming out. I just can't give a date when. But this is a great. We know Jeffrey Smith. He's awesome. Probably the best page on page SEO that I've ever met. He's amazing, and so he's built this plugin that's awesome, and he's got a code inserter module inside there that pulls up all of your pages and posts. Well, they're tabbed, so you can like go into your pages, for example, and add, and it will just be like an index page with all of your pages, and you can go in and add code to each individual page. Like, so you can just go in and add the canonical URL. So, you know, it's the link rel equals canonical tag inside each individual page that way. And it probably even has a bulk edit. I'm pretty sure that it does. So you can do it very quickly to all of your pages and posts this way. If you want to go the free route, then this would be the Sogo header footer plugin. It's free. They do have a pro version, I think, as well. But with this one, you would have to go in on a page-by-page basis or post-by-post basis and add the actual link rel equals canonical tag in each one of those pages individually. So if you've got a mass page site, I can see that being incredibly time-consuming or cumbersome to do. So in that case, I would recommend going with a paid plugin like Jeffrey Smith's. Okay, and this is just a superior SEO plugin, period, guys. All right, but yeah, get rid of the Yoast garbage. Any chance I get, I get off of that. Vitality says, hello, hope you guys are well. I have a G-site that I was working on and it started to rank. I want to assign a custom domain to it. Domain is brand new and not even indexed in Google. Is there a chance that I might lose the rankings or new domain will simply change the long G URL? Any timing that I need to be aware of? Best regards. You know, I don't know. I've done the domain mapping to Gsites in the past. But I don't remember if I monitored because I've got Gsites out there now that have custom domains mapped to them for lead gen stuff that is, you know, that are ranking. And I don't know if it ever, Marco probably has a better idea. I don't know if it did a dance or not. Because what's interesting is both sites will remain indexed. Your custom domain Gsite will be indexed, and your your Gsite will still be indexed, and it actually canonicalizes to your custom domain. So both of them will remain indexed. Now, typically at least what I've experienced was with the custom domain, that ends up ranking, and the other one still remains indexed, but it doesn't typically rank. Like the Google site itself typically is pushed back further in the search results, but it still remains indexed. And if you do a view page source from the Google site URL, when you're viewing the Google site version of it, you'll see that it's got a canonical pointed to the domain that you mapped to. So it's interesting that they both remain indexed like that, but I've seen that happen over and over again. But I can't remember if there was a lag or a period where it danced. Marco, can you shed any light on that?
I haven't seen any dance period when mapping the branded domain, right? The TLD. And so I don't see any issues with it. I don't know how well it's ranking, but you can always they'll recover. Google respects its own This is the interesting thing, right? And this is how you know that Google trusts itself. Google is not respecting some canonicals. We've seen this. We tested it. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But it will respect its own. So when the bot crawls the Gsite, it'll see the canonical going up to the new domain, which is your branded domain, and it'll send everything that was previously there to the new domain. This is the great thing about working with Google.
Yeah.
And I've explained this before, that the reason why the Gsite stays alive and stays indexed is because that becomes your content management system. If they kill that, then you have no way to work on your content and to see your content, because you do everything on the Gsite so that it appears on the canonicalized. It's really weird how they set this up. It's a great thing. I hope they never change it. Google, don't listen. If you're listening to me right now, please don't change anything in Gsites. We love your Gsites.
Yeah. So there you go. I would say just go ahead and do it, because as Marco's saying, even if it did a significant dance, I've seen them come back. Like, I mean, and I don't even remember if I saw them dance to begin with, but my custom domains, if the Gsite was ranking before I mapped a domain to it, then those custom mapped domains are ranking now. And again, I don't remember if they went through a period of dancing or not. Marco was saying that they shouldn't or that they don't. So I would go ahead and do it. And then obviously if you had a catastrophic dance happen, you could always remove the domain map and the Gsite should pop back, because again, it's a Google property. So Quit This House says, good day, gents. Thanks for offering and taking this forum very seriously. When creating Google Sites, is there any reason to only create them in an account associated with the brand? No. There's some inherent authority that you can have from doing that, but you can always create the Google site in another account and then add a user to, like, and even assign ownership to the primary brand account after you've created it, which is how we do it if you order drive stacks from us. You know, we create a Gsites under a persona-based account, and then when we deliver it to you, you're more than welcome to. In fact, we would encourage you, if you wanted to, you know, because some people, they just flat out want it to be owned by their brand account. And that, you know, especially if it's an aged account, it's got some authority, like a G Suite account included, that helps, obviously, because it helps to validate the entity or reinforce the entity. So then you can assign or add a user to that account. I'm talking about the Gsites, guys. Obviously, we know we can do that with Drive, but with the Gsites, you can actually add a user to the account, like a manager, basically, and then you can even transfer ownership if you want it. But that's how we do it with the Drive stacks. Yeah, I think if you have, an older account that's been established, preferably if it's a G Suite account, I've seen some benefits to building a Gsite directly from those accounts. But that doesn't mean that you can't inherit authority from transferring it to that account after it's been built, if that makes sense. Marco, do you have any comments on that?
No, I mean, you know how we do it. We set it up. We create a new account, set up the drive stack in Gsite, then we turn it over, and we recommend that you go and add yourself, right, your main account as the manager of the new drive stack and Gsite, so that you never again have to go in and touch it as the owner. And that's just it adds an extra level of protection. That's the only reason. I mean, there's no reason why it can't be either or. The problem that you'll run into if you get enough from us is that if you make yourself the owner, then you're gonna overburden the resources in your drive stack, and Google will hit your drive stack and your Gsites, and they'll be suspended. And so this is why we went the way that we did with creating them in another Gmail account, because we run a script, and the script is resource heavy, and so we only recommend that the way that we give that to you is how you should run that script. If you add any files, folders, whatever, don't run the script in those. If you make yourself the owner, your main drive account, the owner of one, and then you add another one as the owner, now you have two running that script.
Right.
And Google is not going to appreciate someone having all that hogging all those resources, and you're not paying Google shit. They'll tag you quick. We've seen that over and over and over again.
Yeah. KT's up. He says, "Hey guys, quick question. What is the best free PPC keyword generator?" That's easy. The Google Ads Keyword Planner.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what that is, guys. If you're going to look for pay-per-click keywords, there's no better source than the Google Ads Keyword Planner, and it's free, because that is essentially what it is. For years, people have used that for SEO keywords, and I've been saying for years it's not a very good SEO keyword tool, because those are the metrics that you're seeing are for paid traffic, and that's what they're measuring too. So like the historical information for traffic volume and all that, that's all for paid keyword stuff. That's why longer tail keywords like that people don't bid on don't even show, or will show little or no search volume, when I know for a fact that we can, from obviously I don't know for every keyword, but I know for a fact that there's a lot of long tail keyword phrases out there that generate traffic that we've, because we rank for them. Like, for example, we use Power Suggest Pro, one of my favorite keyword tools of all time for SEO stuff, because it pulls from Google Auto Suggest. It essentially, and it does it via API, so it's incredibly fast, and you can literally build up hundreds, even thousands of keywords and really long tail stuff that has traffic, or else it wouldn't come from Google Suggest, right? The whole point about Google Suggest is those aren't just random keywords that Google throws out there. That's stuff that historically has data. Like, there's people that have typed those in and searched on them, or Google suggests search queries, and there's enough traffic that enough click-throughs from those suggested phrases that they keep them in the suggest database, in other words. And so those are great keywords for SEO stuff, especially when you're starting off on new projects, because although you might not get a flood of traffic, that a lot of those longer tail phrases are typically a very little competition, excuse me. And so those are great, especially when you have silo structure and that kind of stuff, to start building momentum for the shorter tail, more competitive terms. But when you're looking for, like, using the Google Ads Keyword Planner for SEO terms is not really good, because especially like for local stuff, guys, I've been, talking about the alpha beta campaign structure for Google Ads, for search ads. And that is the most efficient way to build out lead generation campaigns for using Google Ads, search ads, excuse me. And the alpha beta campaign structure is all about just going after the bullseye keywords, the short tail money, the most money keywords, the most targeted keywords, because the 80-20 principle absolutely applies. And if not the 90-10 or 95-5 principle, right? Where 80% of your traffic is going to come from 20% of your keywords. And again, like I said, with local stuff, it's typically a lot more, at least with contractors, which is what I primarily work with. It's really like 90-10 or 95-5. 90% of the traffic is going to come from 10% of the keywords. And the alpha beta campaign structure is perfect for identifying that. The beta campaign structure is using modified broad match, which is essentially called like a keyword discovery campaign. But you very quickly, once you start getting some data coming into the account, can figure out what your bullseye keywords are. And that's what you create your alpha campaigns, or single keyword ad groups, although they're not really single keyword ad groups anymore. SKAG, SKAGs, right? They're not really SKAGs anymore, because Google will start to show close variants anyways. So you can group like terms into what I still call them single keyword ad groups, but you don't even need to, because Google will start to show very close variants, even for exact match keyword match types within an alpha campaign structure. And so again, when it comes to that, the best thing that you can do is just use the Google keyword, the Google Ads keyword planner, and just look for your keywords that you're, the money keywords, the broadest of keywords. Then set up an alpha. If you're going to be doing PPC, I'm telling you, alpha beta campaign structure is the best way to go, in my opinion, especially for local leads, guys, because you can very, very, very quickly identify where your money keywords are, the keywords that are actually producing traffic and obviously converting. Because you can have keywords out there that produce traffic, but they don't convert. That's worthless. You piss money away that way, both in ads, if you're paying for PPC, or SEO, right? And that's one of the reasons why I love using pay-per-click search ads, the alpha beta campaign structure, specifically for if I'm entering a new market and I don't know what the money keywords are, the converting keywords. Because although I might be able to get traffic from certain keywords, if they're not converting into leads, then what good is it? And spending some money on PPC is a very quick way to identify which keywords first produce traffic and second produce conversions. Okay. And then those are the keywords that I would then begin building my SEO campaign around. A lot of the industries I'm in, I've identified those, so I can just start off with SEO right off the bat. But I don't suggest going into a new market or a new industry and just assuming that you know what the money keywords are from even using the keyword planner, for example, or any other keyword tool for that matter. I recommend actually spending a little bit of money on ads, a few $100, $500, $1,000 over the course of a month or two, to determine what those money and converting keywords are, and then build your SEO campaign around that. Because think about it. If you're targeting competitive shorter tail keywords that, that are somewhat competitive, it could take you 3-4 months to get significant results from an SEO campaign. And if you don't know, if those keywords don't end up ultimately converting, then you just pissed away several months worth of effort, where you could have identified that within a 4 weeks, 6 weeks time by spending some money on ads and figuring out which keywords generated traffic and converted, and then build your SEO campaign around that. So it's like you either waste time or you waste money, or you know what I mean? It's one or the other. And for me, I'd rather waste a little bit, and I don't call it waste. I call it investing or research, like it's R&D, research and development, right? So you invest a little bit of money in some ads to figure out what your converting keywords are, your best converting keywords are, and then you build your SEO campaign around that. It will save you a ton of time and wasted effort. But obviously, like, seriously, guys, I wouldn't go like just the Google keyword planner. That's free. And that's, if you're looking for PPC keywords, that's the place to go. Nobody out there has more data than Google on search keywords for pay-per-click. I mean, for ads, Google ads, right? Any comments on that, or is that good enough?
No, I mean, that was above and beyond, because it was a simple go to Google AdWords, their keyword tool.
All right, so Robert's not up. What's up, Robert? He says, any recommendation for how to handle GMB posting with SEO clients? My client is paying me $700 a month, and one of the things I'm doing for them is their GMB optimization, but I didn't discuss GMB posting with them. Is it well worth me creating a bunch of GMB posts for them as one of the services I'm providing them, over asking them to try to post it themselves? Obviously, I want them to rank, so I don't want anything holding them back. Well, so that, Robert, that's a that's a great question, actually, because I've got some clients that I've pitched GMB posting services on a couple times, and they didn't take me up on it. And ultimately, I end up doing a little bit of GMB posting for them anyways, because it is so effective. Most of my clients, I've been able to talk into some level of GMB posting service as an add-on service. And I have a blogger that does that for me. She's amazing. But here's the thing. If you're getting $700 a month retainer from this client, and you're struggling at any point to get results, then you may want to just include doing some GMB posting on to produce the results that you want to give them. You know what I mean? In other words, to make sure that you are providing them results, it may be something that you have to add into what you're already doing. Now, if that wasn't in the original scope of work and in the list of deliverables that they agreed upon, then I would still try to pitch them on it and try to get them to put essentially it would be an add-on service, right? Get them to agree to an additional service, because if you're providing them with the fulfillment of the deliverables that you already promised them, then this is something over and above. However, if you promised them results as part of your deliverables and you're struggling to get results, then you may want to just include adding GMB posts at some level to help get them the results that you've promised them. Does that make sense? So it's going to be a judgment call on your part as to whether or not you need to or should approach them. I always recommend that you do. However, as I just mentioned, I do have some clients that have just, for whatever reason, have turned me down on GMB posting services when I've tried to, on multiple occasions, upsell them on that. And my clients all know that I don't just willy-nilly like go out there and recommend or suggest services. When I suggest services, it's for a very valid reason, but some of them, they just don't have the budget or they don't want to invest in it or whatever the case may be. So I'll still have, like, for example, I'll give you a really good example. I've been using David Sprague's rep videos as just kind of an add-on service for a lot of my clients. We would do 1 or 2 rep videos per month per client, just because it's an inexpensive service for me, right? It's like $90 or $100 a month for the subscription. You get like 25 video credits per month or whatever. So depending on what level my clients were at, I'd give them 1 or 2 videos per month where we would publish one of those rep videos for them, and it would go out across their channel as well as across a lot of my, my channels that have syndication networks and all that kind of stuff. And so we were doing that. Well, my blogger who does that for me, I've got another VA that does the rep video stuff for me every month. She sent me an email just a month ago saying, hey, look, some of your clients have run out of reviews, because we've been doing this now for 1.5 years. So some of my clients have only had so many reviews. And she said, I'm struggling to find new reviews. And I said, okay, well, look, some of these clients aren't doing GMB posts. So what I want you to do, and I just provided her a process doc last week. I worked on this, actually. It took me almost like half a day to produce the process doc and the training for her. But what I did was I produced some training to show her how to go to Firefox, download the GMB, or excuse me, the rep video from any one of the YouTube channels that their rep videos are posted on, then upload that as a GMB post video to their GMB, the Google My Business dashboard as a GMB post. So upload that as a video, and then just put the same video description that we had in the YouTube video as the GMB post with the call to action and NAP and that kind of stuff, which is the exact same. So essentially it's a really simple process for her. But I said, look, we'll stop producing, for those that don't have any new reviews, we'll stop producing new videos for, and we'll just shift that service into doing 1 or 2 GMB posts per month using those videos. And by the way, videos and GMB posts get more engagement, very similar to like Facebook posts, guys. If you just do a text-based, or excuse me, image-based post in Facebook, you'll see that it gets, some interaction. But if you do a video post in Facebook, it gets a hell of a lot more interaction. It gets exposed to more people by Facebook's algorithm. The same thing happens with Google. If you just do an image-based post, if you're monitoring GMB insights, guys, you can go look through posts, and depending on the client and how much traffic they get and that kind of stuff, you'll see that you ought to have an average level of views per post after 7 days or 14 days or whatever the case may be. You can go through and you'll see that there's a range of typical views that those image-based posts will get. But if you do a video post, you'll see it'll be double, triple, sometimes quadruple the amount of views that get seen. So is that because the video was that awesome, or is it just because Google's exposing it more? Right? Think about that. It's because Google's exposing it more because it's a video post. And so my point is that that's something that I've taught my VA to do as just as an additional service. I don't charge my clients for. It's just something that we were doing the video rep videos, excuse me, as just part of, by the way, I've done that for clients over the years. I call it mission creep, right? Which is like, I find things that work well, that are easy to fulfill, that doesn't cost me a lot of money, and it's not something that I do or I can train a VA to do and it's very simple and easy to fulfill, doesn't take a lot of time, it doesn't cost me a lot of money, and so I add it into already existing services that I provide. And I've done that over the years for a lot of my clients, but that's why I've got clients that have been with me for 6 or 7 years now, guys. So Robert, again, it's going to be a judgment call. If you are struggling to get results, and results are part of what you promised, which I know most SEOs do, right? then you may want to just include some GMB posting. I would recommend, though, if it wasn't part of your original deliverables, like fulfillment list, that you would pitch them on it. Don't ever ask them to do it themselves. I do have one client in particular that I've pitched on a few times to say, to try to get them to let me do GMB posts for them. And he insisted on doing it himself, and he's doing it. And in fact, I had a call with him yesterday, and he made a joke about it. He goes, man, these GMB posts are killing me. And I, you know, offered it to him again. I got a blogger, she can do it for you, you know, but he just insists on doing it. But he's actually seeing a tick up. I told him to start posting 2 times a day. He's just a Monday through Friday business, and he started doing posting 2 times a day. And there's quantifiable evidence in GMB Insights that he's getting more maps exposure now. So again, it's really going to be a judgment call, Robert. It's a great question, but it's going to be dependent upon what you feel comfortable with. I don't recommend asking them to do it themselves because they won't do it very well. They won't do it consistently. It's a great question, though.
Yeah, I just want to add that there's a reason why local GMB Pro was set up the way it was. And it's set up around not only optimizing the Google My Business listing, but also doing posts on a regular basis. And you have to determine what your sweet spot is. Bradley just said for his service provider, it's 2 a day. It may be that yours is only a couple of times a week. It could be that it requires 3, 4, 5 times a day. You're going to have to find that sweet spot. And then not only that, the images. There's a reason why Bradley teaches how to find images in YouTube, and why I teach how to find unlimited local images in local GMB Pro. You can't. I mean, it's virtually impossible to get these people to provide images for you.
You're right.
And when they do, it's not really what you want. And there's all kinds of problems. There's all kinds of going back and forth. And so you can just do all this. The question now shouldn't be, should you be doing posting? It's yes, you definitely need to do posting. Question is, are you going to get paid for it, or are you going to do it under the $700 a month? Bradley said, go and try to get some money for it. I totally agree. If they don't, then go ahead and do it, because once you set up a template, it's really not that much work.
No.
But the benefits that you're going to see and the upsells that you can get behind the results that you're going to get are going to far outweigh whatever amount of time you put into this. It's really well worth it. Posts are done for a reason. They're done the way they're done for a reason. Everything is taught for a reason. And if you leave anything out, then you're leaving money on the table.
Jeff's up. He says, SM team. Rob Beal says you might have a link building and indexing plan coming out for ad ID pages that we create. Can you give an update on this timeline? Yeah, we talked about that at the beginning. First of all, for indexing ad ID pages, just submit them to Search Console. I mean, that's the easiest way to get them indexed. Now, as far as link building, yes, that's what Marco was already apologizing, because he's the bottleneck at this point, because he can't get the copy written. He's a perfectionist when it comes to that. I would say just put a big buy these links and then put the page up, and then you can always add the copy later, Marco, because we got a lot of people asking about it.
Yeah, I agree. We should just do it, but just put some Latin, right? Some lorem ipsum on there. You guys know what it is.
With a buy button, and
the shit works. Go buy it.
Yeah. And so anyways, Jeff, it's available. I believe you're still in the mastermind. We will notify you immediately when it is. So, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that we should have that. I mean, Rob says it's ready to go. So it's just a matter of us getting the sales page up with the with the copy on it. So that, but as far as ad ID indexing, guys, just submit it to Search Console. If you're in the mastermind, I've given you training on all that already. So, but yeah, the next thing inside the mastermind will be the off-page GMB SEO service, which will be building all that stuff that we do for GMB assets, all the off-page stuff. We can do that for you. That'll be a done for you service, 100%, which, you know, it's quite a process. Well, my team crushes it with that, and it's going to be my team doing that to begin with for the mastermind members to make sure that we can fulfill everything in a smooth way, and then that'll be launched publicly. And you guys in the mastermind, by the way, will get 20% discount. So, and that should be available like very, very soon. I'd give you a day, but every single time I say that, I got to eat my words. So Rob says, this is my first Hump Day Hangout. Well, welcome, Rob. I'll +1 or up that.
Yeah, welcome, Rob. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel, man.
Wow, we had a bunch of hiding comments. Urban Towing says, all my questions get marked as spam.
Yeah.
Well, this one didn't.
Real quick, I wanted to touch on that because, yeah, I saw his comments, so I had to log in. And so, guys, just everyone watching, if you've had your comments hidden or you've had issues. We also had some problems on a webinar earlier this week, so we hear it loud and clear, and we want to get that fixed. So working with Hernan, and we're going to have a new system up in place next week, but you shouldn't have to do anything different. You can always come to semanticmastery.com/HD questions, and we'll just test something else and move forward.
Yeah, okay. James says, are verified GMBs delayed right now in MGYB store? Yes, James, only because they're hard as hell to get verified right now. That's part of the problem is Google's been making...
They're delayed, but we can still get them. It's just taking longer. That's all. Yeah.
You guys should do YouTube live events. That's what it is a YouTube live event, but we're using this page for our comments, Paul. I know what you're saying. That's what Adam just said. We're trying to figure out a way. Look, Google shut down the events pages that we've been using for 4 years, and these are relatively new. And I understand there are some issues. We have to fix them. We got some bugs to squash. So I appreciate you letting us know, and we are working on it. Okay. Is it okay to create a Gsite on a Gmail account that is not related to the brand? Yeah, it doesn't matter. That's fine. Because you can always, like I said, add an owner, transfer it, do whatever you want to do. So yes, you can create a Gsite with brand new Google accounts if you'd like. That's what we do for spam anyways. Steven says, hey guys, how is it that some GMB listings are the only listings that show up in the pack on the right side, even though there is other competition? That's called a knowledge panel. When you see that, and that's just because that brand has, according to Google, has all of the authority in for that particular keyword in that particular location. However, that'll shift. That's fluid. Like a lot of the times, like for example, when I first started developing the local PR Pro method, which is like PR stacking, one of the very first tests that I had set up was for a home remodeler, a remodeling contractor in New York, a little town called King Ferry, New York, and there was a knowledge panel that was showing up for another contractor, and there was no 3-pack at all. And then I had set up a brand new, it was just a ClickFunnels landing page for this guy. And I did a press release. I think it took 2, but I did 2 press releases, and then boom, the 3-pack appeared. And this guy, so it pushed the knowledge panel guy into a 3-pack. And then the other contractor that I was promoting actually was in the 3-pack as well. I don't think he was number 1 right away, but I ended up getting him to number 1. So it just, if you can push enough authority to another maps listing, you can make the knowledge panel disappear. Right? In other words, you can push the knowledge panel occupant into a 3-pack instead, but it's going to take some building of authority to your maps listing that you're trying to push. So that's typically what happens. But yeah, it just means that Google has deemed that company as the most authoritative and really the only one that satisfies that search query at that point. So you have to build some authority to that listing that you're promoting to try to get the maps pack to push. But you can do it. There's no question. Okay, Scott, and we're gonna run out of time here in just a minute, so we'll get through just the last few comments hopefully quickly. Scott says, hey guys, my home services client wants to move on up to the large city in the area, 650K population. He rented a Regus virtual office location without my input, now wants to upgrade his GMB for the big city. I know we need to use a separate GMB account, and I plan to use a subdomain for the big city. I'm very reluctant to use the Regus address for, why not? I wouldn't have any problem using a Regus address. I just wouldn't use like a UPS store. But I know people that I haven't done a Regus address. So unless you've heard in other forums and such that those are easily get terminated or get flagged, I would go ahead and use it. I don't see why that would be a problem. That's better than like a UPS store. I can tell you that. So, I am cautious because Google might instantly suspend the account. Any advice on this? No, I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, I would try it. Here's the thing. If you try it and they do instantly suspend it, then you just go back to the route that we've been doing, right? Which would be just creating another listing within that same zip code or whatever, and then build it out that way. But I don't see why you wouldn't attempt it. At least if you have an address there, you may as well, because if you can verify via regular or snail mail, physical mail, then that's actually a better way, in my opinion, than trying to do it the phone route, which is, or however the hell we've been doing it, because I'm not even sure how it's done. Because those tend to get, or at least right now, Google's still with the itchy trigger finger, so those tend to get slapped rather easily at right now because of Google still being on the lookout for spammed addresses essentially. But that one would be a valid physical address. Does that make sense? So I would absolutely try it. DC Brain in the house. The Brain Supreme in the house grinding. All right, that's awesome. Whoop, there it is. Marcus says, how worried do I need to be about GDPR compliance if all my clients are local plumbers, dentists, lawyers, etc. that don't have anything to do with the EU? They're all in the United States. I don't really worry about that stuff because, again, you're not targeting anybody from overseas. If your audience is tight, local U.S. stuff, I don't worry about any of that stuff. I just to be real clear, like, for example, a lot of my stuff are just GMB assets now, and there's not even like GDPR compliance ability on those. You know what I mean? So if you've got a WordPress site or whatever, like, I don't know, they make plugins and stuff now that make that shit real easy. If you want to do, you could just slap that on there, but I don't see why that would be an issue. That's not your audience. If you're not targeting people outside of your local area in the United States, I don't see why it would be an issue. But I'm not an attorney, so. Quit This House says, when creating a G-site for ranking videos, is it one video plus description per page, or can you have multiple videos, no descriptions on one page? No, I would do a separate video per page, because then you can optimize that page for that specific keyword, which is what, that's the best way to do it for video SEO. One keyword per video, really. I mean, you can add additional keywords in the video and in the description and stuff like that, but you want to have your title tag targeting essentially one keyword. At least that's what I've always done. I've always been able to get really good results that way. That's why the syndication applets from syndication networks or Syndication Academy are set up the way they are, because it's one video per post essentially, with one keyword as your title tag essentially. Does that make sense? That's what I recommend. Tim says, hey guys, I recently transferred ownership of a GMB from one account to another, and the transfer from the account got all the GMBs suspended. Ownership of a GMB from an account to another account, and the transfer from account got all the GMB. Do you know the ways an account get all its GMB suspended? Thanks. No, I don't. I know there is still a lot of crazy shit going on. I lost 6 assets at once several weeks ago, but I think that was from a very specific reason. I'd mentioned before about putting something in the appointment URL section other than an actual valid appointment app, or link to like a page that does have an appointment app on it. So, but then last week, I think it was last week, it might have been a week and a half ago now, I had a tree service. It was in brand new listing though, that all I did was go in and actually remove the ad ID page URL from the appointment section, and it suspended it. And I don't know why. And Marco said he had one that all he did was upload a video for a GMB post, and it suspended it. So that's why I'm trying to stay out of those as much as possible, especially as an owner. And that's what you were talking about, doing stuff is like transferring ownership and that kind of stuff. If I'm doing any sort of work now in them, I'm trying to do them under manager accounts, because those I found that it doesn't seem to happen from doing stuff under a manager account. But when I go in as an owner, like, that's where I've seen suspensions, as going in as an owner and making edits. So add your Tim, if it's a valid business, then you should be able to request to have it reinstated, right? If it's a spammed address, I don't know what to tell you. You can still try to get it reinstated, but you're probably not going to be successful. I wouldn't hold your breath. But if it's a spammed address, that's the risk we take. But if it's a valid business, then there's no reason why you shouldn't ask for a reconsideration or reinstatement. Contact Google My Business support and find out what you can do to get it reinstated. Because if you're transferring a valid business from one account to another, there's no reason that it should have been suspended. Okay. We got to wrap it up, guys. I'm already 5 minutes over. Kelvin says, hey, Bradley, what are some ways to protect yourself from a client who suddenly stops paying you after you've ranked them? Can you own all the work you put in? Thanks. Well, you can. We've talked about this in the past. You can do some things, but you can't protect yourself entirely, because some things that you're going to be doing for clients are going to be directed at their domain, period. Like Citations, for example, or if you're blogging for them and you're blogging from their domain, which is what you should be, going to a branded syndication network, or if you're doing GMB posts through their GMB assets, those are all things that are going to be done to their assets for their assets, which is what, that's what client work is. There are things that you can do. Like if you were to mirror their site, clone their site, if it's WordPress, for example, you can do a site clone through and then install on your own domain, set up a page-by-page redirect from your domain to theirs, and then any external off-page link building you could do to your own domain. That way, if they stop paying you, you could essentially remove the redirects, and now you've got a site that's been built. I would still change the copy and things like that, but now you've got a site that's been built that has a bunch of links built to it that you own, right? But that doesn't protect you from all the stuff that you've done to their assets, which you have to do for client work. You know what I mean? Like, you can't turn that off, is my point. You can, like with some press release places, you can go in and actually like shut down the press releases and stuff that like if they have an organization page, for example, you can turn that off to where it's basically no index, that kind of stuff, to where that would remove some of the juice. But honestly, guys, the way I look at it is that's going to happen. It sucks. It sucks bad, but it does happen, guys. That's just the nature of the game. Instead of trying to figure out ways to get even, I'd spend that energy looking for another client. Okay. Dewan says, interested in purchasing your local branding package for a client. What would you suggest would be the best method for citations of a service area business? Well, press releases are great for citations, as well as, because you don't need to list the address that way. You can just list the name, city, state, zip. So you don't have to list the street address. Press releases work really, really good for that, Dewan. We sell press releases for a very fair price at MGYB. So you might want to check that out. Also, you can be doing syndication networks and blogging. That helps. And you can do geo posts and that kind of stuff through their blog. That helps as well. So that's something else we can talk about. Yeah, I see your question already. So take my money, just take it. Okay, guys, I got to wrap it up. We're already a little bit over. So we appreciate everybody being here. Sorry about the new platform not taking everybody's questions all the time. We'll figure that out. What the hell? Is it not still sharing?
All right, everybody, have a good one while we figure out the ongoing tech issues. Onwards.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We'll see you next week. Thanks,
Bye,
Marco.
everybody.
See you. Thanks, Adam.